Hi guys, welcome back to the Pageant Project. Just before we get into today's topic, which is lessons learned from the Miss Universe saga, which is the saga that never seems to die, for better or worse. But most of you will probably know we've been doing weekly mock interviews now for the past 2 weeks. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very informative, and the women involved, I think, have gained a lot from it. But we've been running them on Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. EST. Now, this Thursday, we are doing one, but it's Thanksgiving. That kind of slipped my attention because we literally don't have Thanksgiving here in Australia. So I didn't know, but I know now. So if we've had 2 people sign up already and they have sent in their video submissions. So just record a quick video and send it in to me. You can probably upload it to YouTube. That's the easiest way. Set it to unlisted. Send me the link, or you can email me the video if it's small enough. But if you'd like to participate, whether it's in person or in real life, whether it's in person or virtual by sending those videos in, just go to pageantmock.com. So I will be doing the mock this Thursday, but certainly understand if you guys are busy having a Thanksgiving, and have an amazing Thanksgiving. I don't know if that's quite the right way to put it. As I said, I've never had a Thanksgiving, so it's a holiday. It'd be nice to actually experience. We'll be starting up an American podcast soon, all things going well, and maybe that's one thing I'd like to spend a Thanksgiving with an American family or a family of a friend and experience that for myself. So we'll see. But pageantmock.com if you'd like to sign up this Thursday, 8 p.m. EST. Remember that is the next day, Friday, midday, in Sydney time, and you can do the other time zone calculations. So lessons learned from the Miss Universe saga. 3 lessons. I've got them written down here. And now's a good time to go into it, A, because obviously it's current news, but B, I feel that when something like this happens in the pageant industry, there seems to be a lot of interest in getting people's hot takes. And there's I have a post that's frankly doing the rounds at the moment and going semi-viral. And it's quite, the arguments going on, not me, but different fans from different countries commenting and having arguments underneath my post is slightly disturbing. Some of them feel very strongly, but what can get lost when you're having these fiery debates, especially after the Miss Universe results, is what can we actually take from this? What can we learn from this? And how can we make sure that the pageant industry continues to grow, continues to improve? I don't want all of this to just obscure the fact that pageantry still exists. And I think Miss Universe has done the industry a disservice this year because it's really put it in the mainstream news, but not in a good way. And when I say mainstream news, when the Nawat saga hit, it was all over mainstream media, not just pageant media, mainstream media. I know this because I have a friend who doesn't really follow pageants and doesn't compete in them anymore. And she sent me a link to a news article when the Nawat saga broke and said, have you seen this? And that's when I knew it really had hit mainstream media. But the problem, I think, for the industry as a whole, that we often have these debates about whether pageants are relevant anymore. And if you pretend that you're a member of the public and you don't really know that much about pageants, all you know is what's told to you in the mainstream media. And the only time you hear about it in mainstream media is when a scandal like Miss Universe breaks. It is reasonable to question whether pageants have any relevancy anymore. I would say they're right, frankly. If the only knowledge you have of the pageant industry is this latest iteration of Miss Universe, I too would be questioning whether pageants have any relevancy anymore. And so what I want to do, 3 lessons, 3 takeaways from the Miss Universe saga, and hopefully you can take something from this that improves your pageant journey or your pageant career, or at the very least increases the odds of you enjoying it and having a fulfilling one and achieving your goals. And number one, as I said, I've written them down here. It's so important. You've got to know what you're getting yourself into. I have been around the pageant industry for going on a decade now. And one of the great gifts that I have from doing so many interviews, hundreds and hundreds of them, is the interviews themselves, sure, but the conversations that go on behind the scenes after the cameras are switched off, so to speak. And that's where I find out a lot about what's going on behind the scenes, the real things that are going on behind the scenes in the pageant industry, and the things that very often can't be spoken about publicly, which I really dislike the fact that they can't, but you know how it is. And it got to the point one time where I honestly felt like I was some sort of spy master. No matter what happened, even if it was an international pageant, someone would tell me what went on behind the scenes. Or if there was a new pageant that hit the scenes, I would have at least one or two women who would compete in it who were my friends, and then they'd clue me in as to what they really thought about this new pageant. And so one of the things you're going to want to do going into this, I feel it's a new era of pageantry, because Miss Universe this year has really been a giant farce, a giant screw up, at least in publicity terms. Then you have, on the other side of the spectrum, something that I feel is positive, is Tom Brodeau taking over Miss USA. At the same time, you have new-ish pageants cropping up. One that comes to mind is Miss Cosmo, if you're talking international. But I'd really point to, in the US at least, Miss All-American and Miss Volunteer America, which I've certainly spoken about a lot. And then in some ways, a system like Miss America, which has always been there, but I think it's almost becoming more relevant now than ever before. And I think it's partly because of what it offers as a prize package. But I mean, it certainly had its scandals in the past, but the women competing in it seem to get the most from it. It appeals to a certain type of individual, to be sure. So someone obviously who's after scholarship, so they're in a tertiary institution. They tend to be very motivated, whether they're starting to be a lawyer or a doctor, and they tend to have genuine advocacies. It's not a given, and we can have a debate as to what a genuine advocacy is, but compared to something like a Miss Universe or Miss USA, those advocacies, they can be genuine, but they don't really need to be. I really feel that Miss USA is more a relatability thing. It's verging on being the influencer, the celebrity, or the model. And to be clear, I have no problem with that, because I think every different pageant can have its own place. But there's a particular sort of contestant who is very much a Miss America prototype. And I think there's a fair degree of crossover with Miss Volunteer America as well, because they both give out scholarships. But you do need to, more so than ever before, know what you're getting yourself into. And precisely because there are more opportunities than ever before, I think more so than ever, now you can find a system that is going to be useful for you. You don't have to settle for entering a system that you're not crazy hot about, but there's only two systems out there, so it's the lesser of two evils, so to speak. You do have to be willing to understand that, okay, maybe that means I don't enter the biggest pageant on the planet. But I would caution you against feeling like that, because even the biggest pageants in the world, you really have to question what is it they can give you that you couldn't give yourself. And let's put a money figure on this. Let's say you were competing in Miss Universe, and let's say conservatively you spent 10 grand on the entire experience. Now, that includes accommodation, that includes flights, that includes your gown, that includes all the coaching, all up. I think $10,000 is pretty conservative. If you didn't compete in Miss Universe, what could you have spent that money on? So, for example, you say, if I compete in Miss Universe, I get to travel overseas. True, but what holiday could you have bought yourself for $10,000? You might say, well, I get to meet amazing people. That's also true, but there are many other avenues. It's almost like anything you do, you're going to meet new people. Maybe you could have taken up a new sport, become a member of a new association, done some public speaking. If you're a student, you join that student association. So if you're a law student, join the law student association. I think anything is a chance to meet people. And I think sometimes we over romanticize it. And don't get me wrong, I do believe pageantry attracts a very certain type of woman that uniquely is attracted to pageantry. And I don't think you can get that anywhere else. But it's $10,000. And unless you have that money to just throw away for no good reason, I mean, again, if there's anything that you would have learned from watching this iteration of Miss Universe, it's that, once again, the results are completely out of your control. And so you have to be willing to consider the possibility that you would spend that amount of money, $10,000 again, hypothetically, and that you could come stone cold last, or at least unplaced. And my question to you, in that situation, would you feel that it was worth it? So I want you to consider that, but also, as I said, you need to know what you're getting yourself into. And this is where you just take the rose-tinted glasses off. You don't just take the word of your coach. You don't just take the word of the director who is trying to, let's say, encourage you to enter their pageant because it's the best thing since sliced bread. Do a little bit of research. And if you have AI, well, with AI, doing that research has become a lot easier. So look up, for example, if you were considering entering, I mean, no one really enters Miss Universe, but if you were to enter Miss Universe directly, what I would say is look up Miss Universe Scandal or Miss Universe Controversy and see what comes up and educate yourself. So that's number one. Do your research as to what you're getting yourself into. Find out what the key players are like. Find out what previous title holders have said. Frankly, you could go through my list of interviews. There's probably a title holder there from a system, many of the systems that you'd be considering, and have a listen to the interview. You don't necessarily have to listen or watch the whole thing, but get a feel for that contestant, get a feel for that title holder and go, yes, that's my jam. Yes, that's my person. Or look at that person and go, that's not really what I'm after. Not a personal judgment, by the way, but just that's not what I'm interested in. That's not what I'm pursuing pageantry for. So do a little bit of research, know what you're getting yourself into, and really have a very close look at the key players involved. If it was me, I'd be looking for things like scoring metrics, entry fees, all things, by the way, which I covered in my book, The Beginner's Guide to Pageantry, which I have right here. And the reason I covered that I think I gave it a whole chapter in the book about things to consider before you should enter. And that was really important because I don't think you should be taking it on blind faith that everyone in the industry has your best interests at heart. And I really don't think you can assume that everyone is competent or that everyone is above board, because evidently, objectively, very clearly, that is not the case anymore in the industry that we're in. Not to paint everyone with the same brush. There are good people, but there are some people who I would say are not good people, and you need to be ready for that. Don't be naive. That's not going to serve you. So that's number one. Know what you're getting into. So lesson number two or three. Don't listen to what people say. Look at what they do. This is really, really important because no director ever says, enter my pageant. I don't give a crap about women's empowerment. I'm just here because I'm a narcissist and I want all the attention and I want to make money off of you. Life would be simpler if people were honest, but there are people, again, branching off that not everyone has your best interests at heart. There are some directors, and I'll use Nawat again as an example of this. I've had issues with that man ever since I coached someone who had competed in his Miss Grand system, one of our national title holders here in Australia. And she came back and told me about her experience. And she said the first thing when they sat down and he was there, Nawat was there, the first thing he told them was, you are here to be seen, not heard. Now, I don't know about you, but that sets off all kind of alarm bells and red flags in my head. The second thing with that particular system is that it's supposed to be about women's empowerment in theory. But when you walk on stage in your swimsuit, they flash your measurements up behind you on the big screen. That doesn't make any sense to me. And then number three with Miss Grand, the advocacy about stopping war. It really sounds like that cliche of pageant girls advocating for world peace. World peace is not that simple as going onto a pageant stage, wearing a swimsuit and saying, stop fighting, we're all, it's not that simple. There are deeply entrenched issues that humanity face because we are all humans, we are all flawed, we all have our own weird and conflicting beliefs. It's not as simple as getting on stage and say, hey, don't fight. I wish it was that simple. It's not. And I had all these, you could call it, gave me the ick. That's the way that you younger guys would say it now. But let's just say it tripped off my intuition. And there's a fly that just got caught in a spider web. It's coming into summer here, fly season. But it made me feel uneasy about Grand. The thing was, I had a couple of good friends competing in Miss Grand, and they were amazing people. They were having a great time in the Miss Grand Australia system. This is another thing that conflicts and goes back to number one, know it yourself, what you're getting into, because sometimes the national or the local pageant can be great, but what it leads to in terms of an international pageant is a completely different kettle of fish. They're the only thing that's the same between them is a name, right? But it was difficult for me because I had a couple of women, a couple of friends who I really respected. They were competing in the system, but the system itself was run by someone who was just giving me the creeps. So I don't say anything. I didn't say anything. I don't feel it's my place. You might disagree, but I don't want to tell someone who's about to compete in an international pageant, I don't feel great about this pageant. I think the guy running it is a creep. I don't feel that's really my place. I don't even think that's useful. Don't get me wrong. If it's a close personal friend of mine, someone I'm talking with all the time, that's a bit of a different discussion. But if it's someone I've interviewed with and it's more of a professional connection, I don't really want to be doing that. You might tell me that I'm wrong and that I should have. But that was back in 2017, 2018, let's say at least pre-COVID. Now 2025, 5, 6, 7 years later, Nawat gets found out on stage very publicly, and I like to feel the whole world has seen him for who he is, the whole crocodile tears thing included. And so he says a lot of things that would probably tick boxes, right? The Miss Grand website says a lot of things that tick boxes, but don't listen to what people say. Look at what they do. And by the way, look at what they do consistently over a period of time. Because of course, everyone has a bad day. Everyone might say something that just in the heat of the moment. But that's why when the Nawat saga broke, I went onto AI and said, I basically said, give me the down low on this Nawat character. Not because I didn't know, but I wanted to see just how much of a pattern this sort of behavior had been. And there have been 3 or 4, and you can look it up. I went to Perplexity AI for this one because it's very good at giving accurate answers based on facts rather than hallucinating. And it identified, not me, Perplexity AI identified this as a pattern in Nawat's behavior, that he would say something outrageous, like criticizing a woman's body. With one of the contestants, he said, oh, her torso is too long and her legs are too short. Then he'll get found out, there's an outroar, then he'd apologize. And then maybe a year later or 2 years later, again, he would say something outrageous. And then again, he would apologize, which, by the way, is classic gaslighting behavior. Ignore the cat. That's my cat. But my point is, don't just look at what people say, because I feel that sometimes what you guys do is you go, oh, I want to enter Miss Grand, whatever it is. And then after that, you cut off all the evidence that shows maybe this is not the right pageant for you because you just decided this is the pageant for you, and you ignore all the evidence to the contrary, and you just focus on the stuff that's confirming what you've already decided. And that can be very dangerous. I know I keep picking on Nawat, but that's the low-hanging fruit. As I said, I had a weird feeling about the guy 6 or 7 or 8 years ago, very early on in my pageant career, because Miss Grand Australia was one of the first pageants I got quite heavily involved with. And now you can see everyone has probably now seen what I saw back then. But I think if you had looked at a few of the clues, again, looked at the fact that they flash up the measurements on stage, talk to the previous title holders if you can, behind the scenes, and ask them, did they enjoy themselves? And if you get one of those messages, because sometimes they can't answer you truthfully because they're literally forbidden by an NDA. But if you get anything less than a glowing recommendation or anything less than a this is what I liked and this is what I didn't like, you can probably put two and two together and know that something is up. And at that point, go find another pageant. I mean, as we've already said, there's more choice than ever before. So do a bit of research, find the one that fits you. Don't just enter one because you saw your friend enter it. Don't just enter one because you thought the title holder was a fantastic person and you want to be like them, so you're going to enter. It's more complicated and nuanced than that. So look at what people do, not just what they say. And this goes for on their social media and the website as well. Don't just buy into the motto. I had there was a system over here. I can't remember exactly what their motto was, but I think it was be your own kind of beautiful. I think that was it. And that really spoke to, I had a friend at the time, that really spoke to her because she was a bit quirky. And so be your own kind of beautiful. That was like, when you go fishing and the fish bites, she bit on that hook hard. As it turned out, that was nothing more than a motto, this whole be your own kind of beautiful. And there was no chance she was ever going to win, let alone, place, let alone win. And then she ended up really disappointed. But do you really think that that motto is something they live by? Well, look at their social media, look at their actions over a period of time, and I believe you'll be able to find that out. So that, for me, is lesson number 2. Don't listen to what people say. Look at what they do over a longish period of time, because as I said, we can all have bad days. So lesson number one, know what you're getting yourself into. Number 2, don't listen to what people say, look at what they do. And then the final part for today, number 3, and I've said this many times before, have a plan that doesn't involve winning. Have a plan that doesn't involve you winning or placing or top 10. Like, people, sometimes I'll have conversations and say, you need to know your pageant why. That's also something that we discuss very often. And it has to be something that doesn't rely on you winning. And then sometimes people say, oh, my goal isn't about winning, but I'd like to make the top 10. Well, there's not a lot of difference between winning and top 10 because it's still a placement-centric outcome. It is still an outcome that is out of your control. And you might say, well, top 10 is more under your control than winning. Yes, sure, I guess in theory, that doesn't mean that you can guarantee it's going to happen, does it? And so you need to know what it is you are looking to get out of your experience. I'm going to say before you go into it, to be sure, you will learn more about what you can get from your pageant experience. After you've competed in at least your first pageant or 1 or 2 pageants, you'll get a feel for what a pageant actually is like, what the industry is like. But even before you go into it, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of pageants are very much the same. So you sign up, you see the sections of competition, you prepare for those various areas of competition. Normally there's an on-stage and an off-stage component, yada, 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 yada. And so ask yourself, remember the $10,000 figure that I said before, and I just pulled out of nowhere? Maybe for a local pageant, it's not $10,000. Maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's 100, whatever it is. Ask yourself, if I come, here's an amount of money that I'm going to be willing to spend on this pageant experience. If I spend this amount of money and I come dead last, what would I still be happy with in terms of what I got from the experience? So would you be willing to spend that money if all that happened was you got to meet cool people, you got to maybe travel to a different city or a different state, maybe a different country? Would that be enough for you? Is there a skill? Did entering a pageant give you that sort of excuse or that motivation to work on your fitness or to work on your interview, work on your communication, or to learn more about social media? And in that case, I would say, sure, I think that's great. Is it worth it? Only you can decide. But having any sort of plan, trying to plan anything that requires you to win or requires you to place or requires anything like that, it's a recipe for disaster. And I say this only because I'm the one who's had to be there to pick up the pieces when things go south. That's why I'm called the pageant shrink, because I do that work behind the scenes. That's where I really hear the disappointment, the untoward things that happened. And these are amazing women that I get to speak to. And you can see the disappointment. And it's really heartbreaking because they really are deserving winners. I'll just say that. Many times I'll look at the person who actually won, and maybe they've given a final answer, whatever it is. I listen to their final answer. I listen to their interview, and I don't understand how that person won. I don't want to throw, shade at anyone in particular, and I know no one can be completely objective, but I just listen sometimes to Q&A, the final Q&A, and maybe the pageant has said, well, once you get to the top 5, all the other results don't count, and we're going to decide purely on the Q&A. And then you listen to the Q&A, and then the person who wins is announced, and you go, I don't know what she said. And I don't even think she knew what she said. She knew what she said. But I know there are other people in the pageant who can speak better than that. And you might say, okay, well, that's not the only thing. And yes, I absolutely agree with you. But my point is, pageant results are unpredictable. It is extremely dangerous to assume. This is a big assumption, by the way, and one that we are all guilty of. Assuming that the judges are competent and above board. Now, I'm not throwing shade at judges in general. I've been a judge myself. But I know from my personal experience that sometimes judges are making questionable decisions, morally and ethically, and sometimes, through no fault of their own really, I put this more on the director, they actually think they're there to pick the prettiest girl, or the one with the prettiest smile, or even just the one who's the most personable. And they're not educated, or they're not told by the director what not what they should be looking for, but what the ethos of the pageant is, so that the judge at least has a chance of picking the best candidate for the job. So, I mean, I would say if you take me on as a judge, I would do my own research no matter what you tell me. But, well, regardless of whether you give me an orientation or an education package or anything like that. But not all judges do that. Not all judges, frankly, have the time. And so you don't want to be hinging your future hopes and dreams on a bunch of random strangers who's going to see you in a room for 5 minutes, who may be of dubious moral character and or may have no idea what they're doing. And then maybe if half of them do know, but half of them don't know, well, then your fate is still half in the hands of people who don't know what they're doing. I know maybe I shouldn't be saying it quite as bluntly as this, but that's just been my experience. And I will tell you, the best thing that you can do to make sure that you can ride the turbulent currents that exist in pageantry at the moment, the best thing you can do is to not need the win. Seriously, not need the win, not need the crown, not need the title, because then when people are trying to put pressure on you, or maybe they're trying to blackmail you, or they're trying to force your hand to do something you really don't want to, you don't have to do it, because you go, well, I don't need this title, and I don't want to work with people who are treating me like this. I'm gone, see ya, bye. But if you are making plans based on, oh, well, when I win, then I'll get to visit Washington, and then I'll get to build this platform, and then I'll be on this big American or this big whatever it is late night talk show, and I'll get a car, and it's like, yeah, that's great. You have no idea whether that's going to happen or not. So what happens if it doesn't? And again, it is not negative thinking to have that contingency plan in place. It is being intelligent. Maybe if you are playing a sport where it's objective, right? Where it's, I know I'm faster, I know I'm stronger, and I've been doing this 5 years and I've won every single time. Maybe then it makes a bit more sense to be making plans based on a potential result. But come on, just look at the results from Miss Universe and you tell me, would you have picked the winner? Would you have picked the top 5? And by the way, I'm not talking about people who are just super passionate about their country and are just always sure that their country will win, and that when their country doesn't win, it's because it's rigged. I'm not talking about those people. Okay, not the crazy fans. I'm talking about objectively. If you had honestly looked at what each woman stood for, Forget all the politics that goes on behind the scenes and sometimes can go on behind the scenes and the drama. If you had had 5 minutes to talk to every single one of those Miss Universe contestants, would you have picked the top 5? Would you have picked the winner? I don't know. I might have picked 1 or 2. I personally wouldn't have picked the winner. I'm not going to say any more than that. I wouldn't have. But if the biggest and most well-known pageant in the world, which is Universe, beyond the shadow of a doubt, everyone knows Miss Universe. Even my friends who have no idea about pageants, they know what Miss Universe is. Everyone, that's the household name. It's the way it's always going to be, by the way. If this sort of saga can happen there, then it can happen anywhere. So be smart about it. As a final note, as a final aside, so those are the 3 lessons I think we can all learn, the 3 takeaways. Number 1, know what you're getting yourself into. Number 2, don't listen to what people say, look at what they do. And then number 3, have a plan that doesn't involve winning. Have a plan that doesn't involve winning or placing or anything like that. One thing I'm going to call now, given everything that's happened in 2025, I think we're going to see more interest, at least in America, maybe in the UK and Australia and some other countries. I think we're going to see more interest in local or national pageants. I've already mentioned this with Miss America, which is a national pageant by design. It's not the Miss America doesn't lead to, Miss Universe America or anything like that. It's just in America. And there's a lot of interest in it amongst the people I know. Miss Volunteer America, another example. I think there's going to be a real growth in pageants that allow you to stay in your country, give you something, a prize package that's very tangible, such as a scholarship, and also I think allows you to highlight the work you do in your local or national community. And I say this because I think if you're an American or you're a Brit or you're an Aussie and then you go to compete, let's say in Southeast Asia, wherever it is, you probably don't know anyone over there and you probably don't have designs to build a brand or build a business there. You probably, and even if you did, you're more focused on what you do at home, right? You're going to build your business at home first. And so if I was entering a pageant, I would be more interested in the opportunities the pageant presented to me in my own country and my local community than necessarily the opportunity of representing my country overseas. Don't get me wrong, that would be a big honor, but that's a once in a lifetime thing. It's a cool experience. But my day to day, my 365 days of the year, I'm at home, I'm in my own country, and I have things that I want to achieve. I think there's going to be a growth in pageants that play into that are more respectful of the time and money and investment involved in a pageant and have those more tangible, practical, this is a prize I can actually use. And I think that's why Miss America, part of the reason why Miss America and Miss Volunteer America, I feel there's been a bit of a resurgence. In Miss Volunteer America's case, it's a new one. So it's a new system. It's not a resurgence. But the reason I think there's a lot of interest in there is because I don't need to explain to you why you should enter. That's a huge thing. There's this piece of wisdom that's thrown around in sales that if you need to explain your product, you've already lost. Well, think about that with different pageant systems. I don't need to explain to you why you should enter Miss America or Miss Volunteer America. All I have to do is say, well, look at the prize package. $20,000 scholarship, $50,000 scholarship. Well, I don't want to be drowning in student debt. That sounds like a good thing. So emotionally, you've got me on board, and then logically I go through, I got this empowerment, I got this interview. Cool, I get to meet other like-minded women. I'm on board. I sell myself. But when you go to a system such as more of a Miss USA, or again, let's take Miss Grand, why should I enter? And you say, you get this opportunity. You go, what's the opportunity? You get to go overseas. Maybe I don't want to go to that country. Or maybe I've been to that country. Or maybe I just go, well, I've got a 6-figure job. If I want to go to that country, I'll pay my own way. Oh, you'll meet amazing people. I've met amazing people already, and I'm really busy at work. I don't have time to go overseas to meet random people over there. Oh, you get this amazing prize package. What's in the prize package? Oh, it's a tanning sponsor. I don't need that. I work as a lawyer. Oh, it's a plastic surgeon who's going to give you bigger, whatever. Thank you. No, I don't need that. And so I feel right now in 2026 and beyond, after the Miss Universe drama and saga. Obviously, at the moment, we're going through a bit of a fallout. There's all this nonsense that's going on, and it's a necessary consequence of what the world has seen. But I think what's going to happen from there's going to be less emphasis on who are we going to send to Miss Universe. And I think there's going to be more emphasis on state title holders, local pageantry with real, practical, tangible prize packages that help you create a better life, that align with your life's journey naturally, rather than you having to contort and twist your life's journey to fit the prize package. So, oh, yeah, I guess, I'm going to be a lawyer, but I guess I've always wanted to walk in this fashion week or have a photo with that person or get bigger this or smaller that. I guess. But no, that's not what you ever dreamed of as a kid. And so if you dreamed of being a lawyer or working as an astronaut or being a doctor, having something that aligns with that very naturally, like a $20,000 scholarship, a $100 scholarship, a $5,000 scholarship, that to me is a really easy sell. And I think that's how we make pageantry relevant again, almost by scaling back. Scaling back from, okay, well, we used to be this big and we used to be like Victoria's Secret. Okay. But we've gone down that path and it seems to be falling down all around us. I think we're going to see a resurgence in smaller, more focused pageants who are run by quality people, and they will develop their own niche. Their pageant will develop their own niche. Like this sort of woman who wants to do this with her life will enter that pageant. And I like that because, frankly, I've thought many times about being a director. And if I was going to start a system, and this has evolved over time, if I was going to start a system, my prize package would be much more aligned with the scholarship system, the scholarship model of doing things. I would say for me, being someone who doesn't think that education only comes through the education system, and as an entrepreneur who had to teach himself a lot, I would almost like the idea of having a prize package, of a monetary prize package, but one that doesn't have to necessarily go to formal education. It could, but maybe it could be put towards a business coach or joining a certain association or a mission trip or a business trip or something like that. I think, again, aligning with what you want from the world. I think there's room for discussion there. But let me leave it there. I've been on for a while. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you feel you've learned from the Miss Universe fallout. As you well know, I don't have any interest in the gossip or the drama or the crazy arguments going on underneath my Instagram posts at the moment. But if you can take something from this that helps you become a better pageant contestant, that's what I'm interested in. So shoot me a message. Let me know. As I said, mock interview this Thursday, which is Thanksgiving, pageantmock.com to sign up. And if you can't attend in person, you can send me that video and I'll send you the replay and you'll get my thoughts. Have an amazing week and I'll speak to you next time.